Welcome back. I'm Lydia Dominic, and I'm here with Frank Stuck from the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud and Delta Group, continuing our series on how insurance fraud affects all of us. Today, we're talking about workers' compensation and workplace fraud, when people cheat the system that's supposed to help when someone gets hurt on the job. Once again, our message is simple. Protect your future, don't commit insurance fraud, and if you see it happening, say something. Fraud is the crime you pay for, and in this case, workers and honest employers really do pay the price. Frank, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Lydia.
Now, workers' comp can feel like this complicated world of forms and rules, and from where you sit, what does workers' comp fraud actually look like, both for the worker side and the employer side?
It really does take two different forms, and one is on the injured worker side, and the other is on the employer side, the premium evasion side. So let's talk a little bit about the on the worker side. So what is workers' comp insurance? The whole concept of that system is to protect the innocent employee who's injured on the job. And the whole idea is to be able to provide some a living for people who are legitimately injured. But unfortunately, there are some people who will look to take advantage of the system and commit insurance fraud when it comes to workers' compensation coverage. So there's a couple different ways that it can be done on the claimant side or the applicant side. One is, we talked about staged automobile accidents. Well, we see staged accidents in work comp too, Lydia, where people will create a slip and fall or an injury on the job. We've seen some wild stories over the years of people who actually will amputate a finger to try to get workers' comp money. We've seen stories where there was one fellow up in it was in the Northwest who actually had a guy amputate his leg in a supposed farm machinery accident. So people will really go out of their way to try to commit insurance fraud from a claimant side. And the other side of it is people who will stage an accident, claim they're injured in order to collect workers' comp benefits, and then go out and work under the table and go out and get another job. And again, it's all forms of insurance fraud. So the reality of it is, we've got to understand that the system is created for people to maintain a positive financial footing when they're hurt on the job. Don't fall for the lure of easy money by committing work comp fraud. Right? And then we look at it and I like the word unscrupulous, on the unscrupulous employer side, where these companies will commit insurance fraud in order to get a lower premium. All right, so the one thing about workers' comp insurance is the premium is based on a number of different factors. And a couple of those main factors, Lydia, are what type of job does the employee do? How risky is that job that employee is hired for? So to look at it from the perspective of, say, a contractor, a laborer on the ground is less dangerous than a roofer up on the second or third floor of a building. So we will see these fraudulent or unscrupulous employers who will play games with their policy. They'll claim that they have, X amount of laborers on the job, when in reality, it's mostly roofers or contractors or people using, power equipment in order to get a lower rate. We see these fraudsters, and I'll call them that because that's what they are. All right, will fabricate the amount of actual employees they have on their payroll in order to get a lower rate. You'll see cases where they won't put an employee on their work comp policy until when? Until they're injured. And then what we see then is an employee who's maybe been on the job for 2-3 days or a week or two, and is injured, as a new employee, when in reality that person has been on the books for a long time. And what'll happen, and the evidence we see is there'll be a lack of official payroll information. And when we talk to these honest workers, they'll tell us, "Oh yeah, I've been working here for 2-3 years. I get paid in cash." And then that's one of the things we see, and that's a way that that quote unscrupulous contractor or business owner will look to game the system. The other thing is they'll hop companies. They'll go with a company for a short period of time, have a couple claims, leave that company, go to a new company, not report that they had any prior claims in order to get a lower rate. And again, it's just another form of work comp insurance fraud. So if you're an honest worker and you're injured on the job, there's a couple things you need to do. Tell your employer right away. Tell them what happened. Get medical attention if it's necessary, so that there's a record of how that injury occurred, where you went to get treated. If and if you're a dishonest person looking to make a little extra money, don't do it, because you're going to be caught, and it's really going to affect you for the rest of your life.
Frank, for someone who is legitimately hurt on the job, the last thing they want to do is get tangled up in accusations of fraud or to make a mistake on their claim. What advice do you have if an injured worker files a proper claim? How do we help them to be able to file this without getting in trouble, or if they're nervous about getting caught up in accusations like that?
Well, the main thing is, as I said, if you're legitimately hurt on the job, report it to your employer immediately. Be upfront with how the incident or how the accident occurred. Get medical treatment. Be honest with the medical provider how the accident occurred, and then move on from there and let the system work on your behalf. Don't commit fraud.
So be honest, detailed, and follow the process is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, sometimes people think it's just paperwork. How serious can it be? What are the real world consequences, Frank, when someone, worker or employer, is caught committing workers' comp fraud?
Well, when you look at it from an employer standpoint, one of the things that we've identified is it really becomes an unfair business practice if that business owner is undercutting their insurance policy, because what they can then do is bid out at a lower rate, and it's unfair to the system. And it's, as I said, it's an unfair business practice. The reality of it is I can't put it any simpler, Lydia. Be upfront, be forthright, tell the truth. Don't get caught up in the lure of easy money and embellish your claim or stage an accident. It's just not worth it, because it's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And the reality of it is it's going to impact the cost of insurance, not only for you, but for everybody else in the state of New York.
Frank, thank you for shedding light on this. Workers' comp is one of those systems that we hope we never need, but when we do, we want it to be fair and strong. Fraud weakens that system, and as we keep saying, fraud is the crime you pay for. Protect your future by being honest and speaking up when something seems off. In our next episode, we'll be looking at how organized fraud rings and social media are changing the game, from viral crash videos to DMs offering easy money to help with claims. We'll talk about how to spot those traps and say no before they pull you in.
Can you believe how many of these we still have left?
Romantic, right?
I'm looking forward to our life together. I'll always be there for you.
Michael was worried about their finances before the wedding and thought filing a fake insurance claim would be easy money. That choice could put their new life at risk.
I love you forever.
Committing insurance fraud hurts everyone. Protect your future. Don't commit it, and report it if you see it happening.
Welcome back. I'm Lydia Dominic, and we are continuing our series on insurance fraud in New York with Frank Stuck from the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud and the Delta Group. Today we're talking about how fraud shows up in your feed. Organized fraud rings, viral videos, and those easy money offers that hit your phone or your DMs. This is where our campaign message really hits home. Protect your future, don't commit insurance fraud, and report it if you see it happening. And remember, fraud is the crime you pay for, even if it starts online. Frank, a lot of adults are online all day, juggling work, kids, life with a phone in their hand. How are organized fraud rings using social media and messaging apps to recruit people or set up scams?
I think one of the easiest ways is they put that, that enticing image on, say, Facebook or on Instagram. Hey, do you want to make some extra money? We can lower your insurance rates. We see it in texts. I want to bring you back when I started in this industry, there was no internet. It's now a lot easier for fraudsters to commit fraud and literally use unwitting victims to help them make money. I mean, we see it. We talked in one of the other segments about don't fall for the lure of easy money. If something looks to be enticing, right? You can make extra money. One of the things that we've seen is that work from home scheme, right? Well, we're seeing the same thing with insurance fraud. We're seeing things where, literally these trolls are putting information out on the internet that, hey, you want to make a few extra bucks? Click on this site and we'll show you how you can increase your finances. And it's that easy money pitch. I mean, if you get a message like, hey, I can help you on your insurance claim. If you have a legitimate accident and all of a sudden you're getting texts or emails, hey, we can help you handle your claim. We can help you get through the process. If it's an unsolicited approach to you, that's something to be wary of. It really shouldn't happen. Unfortunately, there are people who they'll literally, follow police cars to accident scenes. They'll approach people in person. Hey, you had this accident. Here's my card. Give me a call. I can handle this for you. When in reality, they're looking to take advantage of you to get money that they're not entitled to by gaming the system.
So these aren't just random trolls. This can be organized professional crime using a very casual, friendly language.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not random trolls. I mean, they're using this system to game the system is what's happening.
Frank, let's talk about that easy money pitch. If someone gets a message like that says something like, I can help you get more on your insurance claim, or we can help you find a little extra, what should we be thinking in that moment?
If that were me, the first thing I'm thinking is this is a scam.
Yeah.
Okay, why is somebody approaching me unsolicited? Okay, so what you do is if you get that call, if you get that text, you get that email, you get that feed on Facebook, check it out. Go to if it's a business or they're purporting to be a business, go to the Better Business Bureau. Run the name of that company or organization with the BBB. See if they're legitimate. Call the phone number and see who answers the phone. Be wary. Because if you get that unsolicited call, that doesn't make sense. Okay, that's not the way the system should operate. And in reality, insurance companies are here to help you. All right, you shouldn't need outside assistance to get what you're entitled to. And I know that some people may not believe that, but the reality of it is the insurance industry is here to help people through times of crisis. It's not the industry's job to steal from people. And if you get that unsolicited call, you've got to look into it. You've got to call your insurance company. if you have an attorney, check with your attorney to see if that's uh, a legitimate offer. And in a lot of cases, it isn't.
Frank, you and I both know that there's a mindset out there, especially among some younger adults, that said, this isn't a real crime. Nobody gets hurt. The insurance company will be fine. From your experience, what do people misunderstand when they think that way?
Well, I think that, and we go back to the basic definition of insurance fraud. It's the abuse of the insurance system for financial gain. So when you think about it from that aspect, people need to understand that fraud affects everybody. And the reality of it is that every dollar that goes into a fraudulent scheme hurts everybody in the state of New York. I mean, it is a real crime. It's not just a paper game, all right? And and I don't want to pick on the younger generation, but we do have to understand that there is a generational aspect to fraud, as to committing fraud as well. I've got my opinions on why that is, but the reality of it is we're in the information age. We're in, we talk about, artificial intelligence. 30, 40 years ago, if you wanted to stage an accident, you had to create an accident. You had to actually, hit two cars together or get two wrecked cars and make it look like they hit. Well, now with AI, it's so much easier to create what seems to be a quote legitimate claim. So we've got to know that there are some people, and unfortunately, it seems like the younger generation is a little more accepting of the opportunity to commit fraud. And Lydia, believe me, I'm not making an indictment of younger people now. That's not what I'm saying. But I think we have to educate people on the cost of insurance fraud. I mean, it's what the Alliance is all about. Our role is to let people know what insurance fraud is, how it impacts them on a daily basis, and what they can do about it. We're seeing, Governor Hochul is now on a very important journey to try to reduce the cost of automobile insurance in New York. And I applaud Governor Hochul for understanding that insurance fraud is having a huge impact on the cost of insurance. And it's in things like we've talked about over these last few segments: automobile accidents, property damage claims, workers' comp claims, these fake company schemes that we're seeing. Insurance fraud is driving up the cost of insurance, and unfortunately, it's something that's really emerging, and it's becoming much more prevalent, in my opinion, over the last 6 or 7 years. I've been doing this, Lydia, for 45 years, and that's fighting insurance fraud.
For someone who's watching, Frank, sorry, I cut you off.
I'm sorry.
For someone who's watching, we don't have a ton of time left. I want to get this one in. Who's getting these messages already? Maybe it's them, maybe it's a friend, someone they grew up with. What's a good way to say no and step away? If they're already involved and they're scared, what's the safest first step they can take?
The safest first step, if you get an unsolicited call, is hang up. Block the number so that they can't call you again. The second thing is understand that this is a reality, that people are going to look to steal from you, and by making you an unwitting victim of insurance fraud. Call the authorities, call the state of New York, call the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud. Right? If you see something, say something. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. If you see a fraud occurring, report it. And if you're thinking of doing it, don't fall for the lure of easy money.
Thank you, Frank. In our final episode, we're going to be bringing everything together. We'll share a simple checklist of red flags, show you how to report suspected fraud, and how to talk about all of these things so we can help keep costs down for New Yorkers. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Lydia Dominic here with Frank Stuck. Don't go away.
Can you believe how many of these we still have left?
Romantic, right?
I'm looking forward to our life together. I'll always be there for you.
Michael was worried about their finances before the wedding and thought filing a fake insurance claim would be easy money. That choice could put their new life at risk.
I love you forever.
Committing insurance fraud hurts everyone. Protect your future. Don't commit it and report it if you see it happening.
Welcome back. I'm Lydia Dominic. We're here with Frank Stuck from the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud and the Delta Group for our final episode in this series on insurance fraud in New York. We've talked about staged crashes, health insurance scams, workers' comp fraud, and how social media can pull people into organized schemes. Now we want to leave you with something special and practical, some really good information and a simple checklist to protect your future and clear ways to report fraud when you see it. Because fraud is the crime you pay for, but together we can push back. Frank, now we've covered a lot. For someone who is watching this series and they're thinking, okay, just tell me what to do. What are 3 simple habits that they can start this week to protect their future from insurance fraud?
Okay, so let's start with the accidents, with the accident side and how not to be a victim. We talked earlier in one of the segments, be aware of your surroundings, be alert. Don't tailgate. Get a dash cam. Okay, it's not expensive and it can really save you. Right? If an accident happens, call the police. Don't if you get in an accident with somebody and they say, oh no, we don't need the police, don't listen to them. Get on the phone, dial 911, call the police. Right? Take pictures. Take note of how many people are involved in that accident. Okay. From the perspective of social media, don't fall for the lure of easy money. Be wary of things you see that are unsolicited. Be wary of those offers that are really too good to be true. If you get in an accident and you go to a body shop or you're dealing with an attorney, don't sign forms that you haven't read. If you have medical treatment, look at your EOB, the information that you get after you go to a doctor. It's called the EOB, or explanation of benefits. Read it. Look at it. Is that the treatment that you received? Is that the doctor that you saw? It's very important. And the other thing is, if you're in an accident, don't just run out and go to that doctor because somebody called you up and said, hey, you're in an accident, go see Dr. XYZ. Do your own research. Do your homework.
Now, we've talked about a lot of different scams. If you had to boil it down to a few red flags that apply across auto, health, and workplace situations, what should people be watching for, Frank? Okay, so one of the main things is that outside pressure. If you're involved in an accident and you get a call from a third party saying, hey, we know you're in this accident, go see this doctor, go see this lawyer, be wary of that. Go to get your own doctor and lawyer. Don't listen to an unsolicited attempt to get you to cooperate in something that may very well end up being a potentially fraudulent claim. One of the other things is, we talked about how to avoid an accident. If you see somebody in front of you who keeps brake checking you, that's a red flag. Back off, because they're trying to get you to engage you in an accident. If somebody's asking, and this literally is pretty simplistic to me, but if somebody comes up and approaches you and asks you to lie, something as simple as, hey, you were in an accident, tell them I was in your car. Don't do it, because that's, again, don't fall for the lure of easy money. I mean, the reality of it is, there are a lot of people looking to take advantage of the system, and they're looking to use the good citizens of our state as unwitting pawns in their fraudulent schemes. Speaking of the good citizens, let's talk about reporting. If someone sees something that looks like fraud, a staged crash, a suspicious medical bill, funny business at work, where do they call? Where do they start?
So the first place that I would recommend you go is to your own insurance company. Tell them that you think you may be a victim of insurance fraud. Ask for their special investigation unit. Have them put you in touch with their SIU. Let the SIU investigator know what you think. If you can, then you can also call the state of New York. You can call law enforcement. And then, the other thing is you can call the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud. You can call us at 844-FRAUD-NY. We'll take your information. We'll report it to the state on your behalf. And you can do it anonymously. Or you can go to our website at fraudny.com. So to answer your question, Lydia, it's that old adage, if you see something, say something. If you see something that appears to be fraudulent or looks suspicious, call law enforcement, call the state of New York, or call the Alliance, and just let somebody else, let the professionals take a look at that potential fraudulent scheme.
Frank, a lot of our viewers are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. They are busy, they are stressed, they are dealing with a lot of high costs and a lot of pressure. What's your final message to them about insurance fraud and about protecting their future here in New York?
I guess my final message is, people have to understand that, as we say at the Alliance, fraud is the crime you pay for. And every time somebody commits any amount of fraud, even if it's something as simple as, we talked earlier about, lying about where you live, or lying about the amount of, something as simple as the amount of miles you drive in a year, that costs the system money. So, my message is, don't fall for the lure of easy money. Be honest, all right? Tell the truth. Report your incidents, legitimately. Be honest on your applications for insurance, and just, understand that every little bit of fraud impacts everybody.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for walking us through this entire series. Here's what we want you to remember. Insurance fraud is not harmless and it's not victimless. Fraud is the crime you pay for, and higher premiums, higher prices, and a higher cost of living for every New Yorker. Protect your future. Don't commit insurance fraud, and if you see it happening, report it. To learn more or to report suspicious activity, visit or contact 844-FRAUD-NY. I'm Lydia on behalf of the New York Alliance Against Insurance Fraud and our guest, Frank Stuck. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and protect your future.